Discarded with twins, the incredible rescue by a billionaire that changed everything forever. Sarah stumbled out of the diner, exhausted but proud of her day's work. The clutches of her small-town life felt heavy, especially after a long shift serving coffee and flipping burgers at Mel's diner. Yet nothing was as draining as the sight of her two energetic 6-year-olds Mia and Jake rushing toward her, their faces lit with joy. Every hug from them filled her tired soul with warmth. But as she walked toward home, the weight on her shoulders tightened. It felt like an uphill battle keeping their little world afloat. But that evening, as she turned the corner to her tiny house, hope turned to horror. Her belongings lay strewn across the front lawn, a dizzying mix of clothes, toys, and the eviction notice pinned to her door felt like daggers piercing her already frayed heart. No one should face this alone, but alone was all she felt right then. The laughter of Mia and Jake faded into the background as her fears clouded her thoughts. With her stomach churning, Sarah ventured into her community, pleading for help. What she got back were cold shoulders and hushed whispers. Faces that once greeted her with warmth became mere shadows, eyes darting away like they feared her very presence. The heartless judgments and gossip stabbed deeper than any eviction notice ever could. Her heart raced like a trapped rabbit. How could she face another day? And then, just as despair threatened to swallow her whole, blissful serendipity approached in the form of Kyle, a newcomer who would arrive at the diner for coffee every afternoon. When he overheard Sarah's plight, something shifted in his steely gaze. She saw compassion glimmer there, a spark that lit a path through her darkness. Perhaps this time a billionaire, for crying out loud, could be the lifeline she needed. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Kyle helped Sarah find a safe place for her and the kids, the community began to ripple with whispers of how a wealthy man was meddling in their affairs. Each day became a tug-of-war, testing the threads of her resilience while forcing her to confront her longing for connection. Then, inexplicably, she received a call from her estranged mother, an opportunity to mend a wound she buried deep inside. Could this be the bridge to healing? Moments flickered with both tension and the glimmer of possibility. Right then, as the ground beneath them shifted, Sarah realized the battle ahead wasn't just about survival, it was about defining her place in a world that felt increasingly unwelcome. Would she risk her fears to seek the help of a man who embodied the privilege she had always distrusted? Would this new alliance be an answer, or the beginning of her undoing? Sarah sat on the edge of the worn-out sofa in her temporary apartment, the space echoing with uncertainty. Mia and Jake were coloring at a small table, their laughter like music trying to drown out the looming shadows of worry. Sarah watched as they leaned into their drawings, blissfully unaware of the adult world's burdens. She couldn't help but smile, but that smile quickly faded as reality pressed in. A drip from the sink interrupted her thoughts, reminding her of the endless list of repairs they needed that simply couldn't happen. Every creak of the building felt as if the universe was reminding her of the precariousness of their situation. Her phone buzzed on the table, jolting her from that spiraling darkness. It was a message from Kyle. "Thinking of you. Can we talk later? I have an idea." His words ignited a fire in her heart, a flicker of hope that banished some of the fog. Gathering her thoughts, she decided not to keep him waiting. Kyle was a stranger, but he had shown nothing but kindness when his world collided head-on with hers. "Mommy, look!" Jake squealed, waving his crayon masterpiece in the air like a trophy. "I drew us at the beach." Sarah's heart swelled at the sight of the 3 stick figures etched in the sand, complete with sun and waves. It was simply crayon, yet the joy radiating from it was tangible. "Yes, sweetheart. That's beautiful," she replied, pulling him into a tight embrace. Mia joined, and together, they formed a tiny fortress of love that dulled the edges of their chaotic lives. After settling them into bed, Sarah paced the small living room, her mind swirling with uncertainties. What could Kyle's idea be? The potential of assistance seemed both thrilling and terrifying. Did she truly want to rely on him? Was she ready to even consider trusting a man? Yet the thought of her kid's future pushed her to consider all possibilities. By the time she sank into the lumpy couch to check her phone again, hope had taken root. She typed a quick response, "Yes, let us meet. I could use some good news." Later that evening, she found herself in a small cafe that smelled like fresh coffee and baked croissants. And there he was, Kyle. He looked comfortable, his jeans fitting just right, his easy smile a stark contrast to the burden she had carried all day. "Hey," he greeted, with an enthusiasm that felt disarming. "Thanks for coming." "Thanks for the invite," Sarah replied, gathering the courage it took to face this moment. They exchanged pleasantries before Kyle leaned in, his eyes serious. "I've been thinking about your situation. I want to help you." A rush of emotions washed over her: gratitude, skepticism, vulnerability. "But why? You hardly know me." "I've been where you are," Kyle admitted, his voice softer. "I grew up in a small town like this. I can't just stand by and not do anything. Your kids deserve better." Sarah's heart raced. Did he truly understand? The town's whispers echoed in her mind, but Kyle's sincerity melted those doubts like ice in a sunbeam. Could she allow him to be a part of this journey? To accept help without losing herself? And then, doubt began to creep in. If she accepted his help, would it mean she was relinquishing control over her life? Could she trust him? As a million thoughts swirled, Sarah realized one thing for sure: the real question wasn't just about help, it was about opening herself to the idea of change. Just then, the bell over the cafe door chimed as if to underscore the tension in the air. Sarah's heart skipped a beat, and she turned slightly. "Are you ready for something new?" Kyle asked, his voice steady. But before she could respond, the door swung open with a swift whoosh, revealing a familiar figure standing there, wide-eyed and shocked. Sarah's breath caught in her throat. It was her mother. What would this unexpected reunion mean for them all? The moment hung in the air like a thick fog, swallowing Sarah's thoughts. Her mother stood there, eyes darting between Sarah and Kyle, bewilderment plastered across her face. It had been years since Sarah had seen her parent, and the ache of unresolved feelings surged up like a tidal wave. The cafe felt suddenly small and constrictive, the warmth of the freshly brewed coffee now feeling suffocating. "Mom?" Sarah finally managed, her voice shaky. "Sarah," her mother breathed, stepping forward. But there was hesitation, an invisible wall that had clearly stood between them for too long. Kyle stood by, watching the emotional scene unfold, unsure of his role. A mix of concern and curiosity danced in his expression, but he instinctively took a step back, granting them the space they needed. "What are you doing here?" Sarah continued, her heart racing. She never imagined her mother would come looking for her now, not after all the years of silence. It felt surreal. I heard you were back in town," her mother replied softly, eyes brimming with unshed tears. "I had to see you." The years of hurt nudged at Sarah. She wanted to scream about the past, but instead, her voice came out steadier than she felt. "What do you want from me?" "I want to explain," her mother said, taking another tentative step closer. "I made mistakes, so many. I know I hurt you, and I can't change that. But I'm here now. I want to be part of your life again, to meet Mia and Jake." Each phrase poked at the raw wounds Sarah had tried to close. Caught between anger and the flicker of hope, she glanced back at Kyle. His presence was grounding, a reminder that there were still people willing to help her up. "Mom, it's not that easy," Sarah said, the tremor in her voice betraying her. "You left us. You weren't there when I needed you." "I know," her mother said, her voice breaking. "I was lost, but I've changed. I want you to see that. I've been working on myself. I want to repair our relationship and be there for your kids." Jake and Mia's laughter echoed in her mind, their innocent joy so distant from the pain she felt now. Could she really open that door? Was there space in her heart to forgive and rebuild, or would this reunion only add to the chaos? Why now? Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. What's changed? Because I'm scared of losing you again, her mother replied, sincerity flooding her words. And because I want to show you that I can be better. As the words settled between them, Sarah felt the weight of her decision pressing down. Could she let go of the past? Was it fair to her children to deny their grandmother a chance to be in their lives? The flicker of hope rejoining with the sharp edges of betrayal. How do I know I can trust you? She finally demanded. I don't know, her mother admitted, her eyes pleading. All I can offer is my sincere apology and a willingness to try. Please give me that chance. Behind them, Kyle shifted, the quiet tension hanging over the table like a storm cloud. With her heart pounding, Sarah glanced at Kyle, who gave her an encouraging nod. He understood that this was a moment she had to face on her own. Just then, her phone buzzed insistently in her pocket. A sharp reminder that life wouldn't wait for her decisions. Sarah's breath caught as she reached for her phone, revealing a text message from an unknown number. We need to talk about the kids. It's urgent. A chill rushed down her spine. What could this mean for them? Just as the past and present collided, the stakes of her future surged. Would she embrace a reconciliation with her mother, or would unforeseen circumstances force her to make an even tougher choice? The possibilities swirled around her, and one question loomed in her mind. What if this moment was just the beginning of something she never anticipated? The cafe buzzed around them, but in that moment, it felt as if the world had faded away. The weight of her mother's words hung in the air, mingling with the aroma of coffee and the chatter of patrons, but Sarah couldn't focus on anything except the text on her screen. Who's that? Her mother asked, breaking the thick silence as she tried to peer over Sarah's shoulder. It's nothing, Sarah stuttered, quickly tucking her phone back into her pocket. But her heart raced, nonetheless, a mixture of anxiety and dread clawing at her insides. What do you really want from me? She pressed again, needing clarity, needing to understand if this reunion was genuine or just one more wound in a life already scarred. Her mother took a breath, her facade cracking under Sarah's scrutiny. I want to heal what's broken. I want to be here for you, for your kids. I want to show you that I'm not who I was. With each word, a flicker of hope ignited within Sarah, but it battled fiercely with a whirlwind of doubt. How could she trust someone who had been absent for so long? The memories of loneliness hit her like a wave. Nights she spent wrapped in the blanket of her childhood, desperately wishing her mother would walk through the door. Just then, Kyle stepped forward, interrupting the shared moment. Sarah, maybe you should check that message, he urged, his tone firm but gentle. If it's urgent, it might be important for you and the kids. Reluctantly, she nodded, half of her wanting to ignore the message and half screaming to know what it was about. Kyle was right, whatever it was could be a distraction from everything else circling in her mind. She pulled her phone back out, her fingers trembling slightly as she swiped to open the text. Urgent? She whispered under her breath, scrolling to the bottom where a second message had arrived just moments after the first. It's about Mia and Jake's father, the unknown number continued. You need to hear this. Can we meet? Her body tensed. It was one thing to navigate the emotional turbulence with her mother, it was an entirely different beast to deal with the complications of her children's father. She felt a rush of heat, both frustration and fear curling in her stomach. I need to go, Sarah finally said. She looked at her mother, emotions churning wildly within her. I don't know what I want right now, but my kids come first. I understand, her mother said, no trace of impatience about her. I'll be here waiting. When you're ready, please reach out. Kyle placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, and Sarah felt a surge of gratitude for his presence. He was her anchor amidst the chaos. Let us deal with the message first. We can talk about this later. Without looking back, Sarah stepped outside the cafe, the cool air invigorating yet disorienting. Just moments ago, She lived one of the most intense experiences of her life, and now she was broken free of that shattered moment, forced to confront the reality of her children's past. As she texted back the unknown number, a mix of emotions crashed over her: worry for her kids, confusion about her mother, and a growing need to reclaim control over her life. "Can we meet?" she typed, her fingers hesitating on the screen. With her heart racing, she sent the message. The day had already taken unexpected turns. What if this meeting changed everything again? Suddenly, Sarah caught sight of something shimmering from the corner of her eye. A parked car with a familiar logo, the logo of a charity her community had once celebrated. Her pulse quickened. It was the start of another chapter, another twist in her tangled story. What next? She murmured, questioning whether more secrets awaited her just around the corner. Life had a way of plunging her into the unknown. Little did she know, this was just a small piece of the puzzle. There was much more at stake than she could ever fully understand. As Sarah stood there, the logo on the car sent her mind racing. Memories flooded back of events organized for families in need, the joyful faces of children, and the warmth of community support. It had been a while since she'd thought of those days, back when hope felt abundant and future seemed bright. But that feeling always came with a hint of pain, a reminder of what had slipped through her fingers. She took a hesitant step toward the vehicle, drawn in by its familiarity. Just as she reached the door, the window glided down, revealing a man with tousled hair and kind eyes. He looked slightly out of place, but his genuine smile radiated kindness. "Hey there. You look like someone who could use a little help." "Who are you?" Sarah asked, tightening her grip on her phone. She was wary. Good intentions often came with strings attached. "I'm Tom," he replied, his voice inviting. "I work with the charity. We're launching a new initiative to help single parents in the area, and I thought you might be interested." He paused, assessing her expression. "I know things have been tough. We want to make life a little easier, not just for parents like you, but for the kids too." Her heart raced, but she remained skeptical. "And what is the catch?" Tom chuckled softly. "No catch, just a chance to connect and see how we can lend a hand. You've already been through so much. I simply thought it might help if we talked. I could even get you a few resources today." Sarah weighed his words carefully, feeling a flicker of hope mixed with deep-rooted skepticism. This stranger in front of her didn't feel entirely like a stranger. He felt like someone who understood her struggles. She stole a glance at the cafe again, the comforting noise of chatter and laughter still echoing inside. I can't think right now. I just got some news about my children's father," she confessed, her voice trembling. Would this man understand the tension that bore down on her? Tom nodded, a look of empathy crossing his face. "I get it. Life can throw curveballs when you least expect them. Maybe this is just a moment to breathe, right? Take a few minutes. We can meet somewhere else if you prefer. Just give me a call." He slipped a card into her hand before rolling up the window, his expression leaving an undeniable imprint on her. As she stepped back, the card felt heavier than it should have: Tom Mitchell, Community Outreach. His kindness hung in the air, contesting the heaviness of her mother's visit and the uncertainty of the message she had just sent. She glanced at her phone, checking again for a response. Nothing yet. But a part of her felt more empowered. She had options. Whether or not she met with Tom, she could choose the path forward. The sounds of laughter from the cafe continued to mingle with her thoughts. It was still a world full of light and connection, and maybe, just maybe, her own light wasn't extinguished yet. Tucking Tom's card into her pocket, she took a deep breath and began to walk away from the cafe, her mind swirling with possibilities. She felt a growing resolve with each step. She would reclaim her narrative, one meeting at a time. But as she turned the corner, the anxious knot in her stomach tightened once more. It all came rushing back. The reality of her children, the delicate threads connecting them with their father, and the impending meeting weighed heavily on her heart. Could she truly navigate this complex landscape? What would happen when she finally faced those deep-seated fears? The answers felt just out of reach. And then, Sarah's phone vibrated against her leg. That familiar ring a message. Breathe. It could change everything again. What did it say? The screen lit up, and Sarah's heart raced as she recognized the sender. It was Jake, her children's father. Her pulse quickened, a mix of anxiety and hope swirling inside her like a storm. She hesitated, fingers hovering over the screen. The weight of her unresolved emotions pressed heavily against her chest, and the crackling anticipation of this simple message hung in the air. Can we talk? It read, accompanied by a suggestion for a time later that evening. The urge to scream or throw her phone out of frustration surged within her. Talk. Right now, her life felt like a tightrope walk, and she wasn't sure if she was poised for a leap or a fall. Taking a deep breath, Sarah read the message again, her mind tumultuous. This wasn't just a conversation, it was a reckoning. What did he want? To negotiate custody? To apologize? Did he even remember what it was like to hold hands with their children, to share the good moments, or was he only haunted by the weight of their failures? Her thoughts raced back to the last argument they had, the bitter tastes of blame and resentment lingering like an unwelcome guest. But how could she refuse? For the sake of the twins, there had to be a dialogue. They were all tangled in a web that only grew tighter with each passing day. Okay. I'll think about it, she typed back, each keystroke sounded like thunder in the silence of her mind. She clutched Tom's card tightly in her other hand, as if it were a lifeline. Should she reach out to him instead? What if he could help her navigate this? She felt a pull in two directions, her past and her potential future, each representing a different kind of hope. With each step, the rain began to fall, gentle at first, then gathering strength as if sinking with her turmoil. She pulled her coat tighter around herself, moving toward the nearby park. It was her favorite place to gather her thoughts, a simple patch of green where she and the twins had spent countless carefree days. The park was empty, save for a couple of joggers and a few ducks waddling along the damp grass. She sat down on a bench, feeling the cool aluminum beneath her. The ducks quacked as they pecked at the ground, oblivious to her inner conflict. Just like them, she felt lost in a world she used to navigate with ease. Lost in thought, she almost jumped when her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a call from her mother. Pick up, a ghostly whisper echoed through her mind. Did she want to hear her mother's concerns, her advice? Or was she simply seeking comfort where she knew it wouldn't exist? The simple act of choosing seemed monumental. Should she answer? Would her mother's voice help guide her through the uncertainty looming over the evening? Just as she was about to make the call, her breath catching in her throat, the sound of a child's laughter rang out nearby. She turned to see a little girl chasing after a bright blue kite being held by her father. The sunlight caught the streamers, sending splashes of color rippling through the gray afternoon. The sight filled her with longing. For the first time in days, she felt the pull of hope, like a small flicker igniting against the swirling darkness. She closed her eyes, letting the sound wash over her. It was a reminder. She didn't just want to survive, she wanted to thrive for her children. But could she thrive with the weight of this decision looming over her? Would she allow her past to dictate her future? With renewed focus, she took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm in her head. But finally faced with the choice ahead, she realized, the real courage lay in embracing both paths, stepping forward with the knowledge that she could change the narrative of both her life and the life of her children. She opened her eyes, and just then, her phone buzzed again, this time with another message from Jake. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. What would he say now? Sarah's heart ached as she stared at the phone, the screen glowing ominously in the dim light of evening. She hesitated, thoughts racing faster than she could capture them. What could he possibly say now? In that split second, she envisioned the countless nights filled with anxiety and the dawning light of a new day that seemed to come with fresh burdens rather than relief. As she finally swiped and opened the message, she barely registered the words. I miss you. Can we meet at the cafe? Each word felt like a wave crashing over her, a mixture of longing, bitterness, and trepidation. Did he really miss her? Or was this just another attempt to ease his own guilt? She grasped the bench's edge, grounding herself, feeling the cool metal beneath her fingers. The laughter of children echoed around her, a stark contrast to the heavy silence in her chest. It reminded her of the moments that once filled their home, the laughter that now seemed perpetually absent. Her twins deserved better. They should not be forced to carry the weight of their parents' mistakes. With a deep breath, she typed back, "I'll think about it." Almost immediately, she regretted the ambivalence. What was she trying to achieve? Closure? Clarity? Or was she just delaying the inevitable? The rain intensified, a curtain of gray slicing through the fading light. Each drop drummed against the park's pavement, mirroring the chaos of her thoughts. She pressed her hands together, drawing strength from the little card in her pocket. Tom's encouragement felt like a whisper of hope, guiding her, urging her to find her voice. If she chose to meet Jake, would he strangle her spirit further? Or could this be a chance to redefine their story? As she pondered, her phone buzzed again. It was from Tom, "Thinking of you. Remember what we talked about?" Simple yet powerful. His unwavering support bolstered her spirit as she read the words. Looking around, the park slowly transformed. The joggers now seemed like fleeting shadows, the ducks a reminder of simple joys she had once shared with her children. It was their laughter that she craved back in her life, their smiles that fueled her determination. The clock on her phone blinked ominously. The meeting time was approaching, and a quick glance at the sky reminded her that she needed to make a choice. Rain dripped off her coat, as messy as the emotions swirling inside her. She couldn't keep running. Rising from the bench, she stood tall, drawing in a breath. It was time to confront the past, to dive into the unknown. As she made her way toward the cafe now, her heart thudded in her chest, steady and loud like the rain. Arriving, she found the cafe bustling with warmth. The aroma of coffee wrapped around her, inviting like a familiar hug. Her eyes searched the room, landing on Jake, who sat by the window, looking every bit like the man she once knew and yet a stranger all the same. He caught her gaze and offered a hesitant smile, one that sparked something deep within her. It was then that she realized, this wasn't just about him. It was about her too. Taking one last deep breath, she walked inside, determined to find her voice. As she stepped forward, the door swung wide open, and she felt the weight of her past beckoning her to enter, one choice at a time. Would this meeting be the beginning of healing or the final nail in the coffin of their broken family? The answer loomed large as she sat down across from him, ready to finally face whatever came next. Jake looked younger, his hair slightly disheveled as if he'd rushed to the cafe, but the warmth in his smile made Sarah's heart flutter, unexpectedly. It was hard to muster the feelings that had once danced between them, the laughter, the love that seemed so distant now. Memories flooded her mind, watching him teach their twins to ride bicycles, late-night conversations, and shared dreams that had unraveled thread by thread. "Hey," he said softly, his voice breaking the silence that felt so profound between them. "Hey," she managed in return, her voice barely above a whisper. The cafe buzzed around them, but in that moment, it felt like they were the only two in the room. Jake sat forward, wringing his hands together, an edge of anxiety visible on his face. For a fleeting moment, she saw the man who had once promised her the world among the shadows of her grief, now just a ghost of what could have been. "I'm really glad you came," he said, searching her eyes as if looking for a flicker of the connection they once shared. "I didn't know if you would." They were both skateboarding on thin ice, and the silence between them filled with unsaid things. Sarah's heart pounded louder, the weight of the decision she made seemed to settle on her shoulders heavily. "You wanted to talk?" "Yeah. I miss us, Sarah. I've been thinking about everything. About how I messed up." She clenched her jaw, the anger bubbling close to the surface. "You think that just saying that makes it all right?" "No, I know it doesn't. I know I hurt you, and I'm sorry. I wait for a sign that you'll forgive me." His voice was shaky, vulnerable in a way that made her remember the boyish charm that had first drawn her to him. "What do you want from me, Jake?" It was a question almost too hard to ask, but it hung there in the air between them, pressing for an answer she wasn't ready to hear. He hesitated, his gaze darting away. I want another chance. To show you I can change. That I'm not the same person who left. She looked at him, searching for sincerity. Was this just a last-ditch effort to ease his own guilt, or did he really mean it? You can't just come back and expect everything to be the same. I know. I get that. But I realized I can't imagine my life without you and the kids. I want to be there for you both, he said, his voice thick with unshed emotion. His vulnerability stirred something in her, a spark of hope amid the ashes of hurt. But what if I can't trust you again? What if this is just another broken promise? Jake leaned forward, his eyes earnest, the light catching the hope behind them. I won't give up. I'll show you it's different this time. Just give me a chance to prove it. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, she felt the pull of the past, the possibility of a future that brimmed with hope. But does hope mean opening doors to further heartbreak? As she opened her mouth to speak, the weight of her children's laughter echoed in her mind. Could their world really be mended? The cafe disappeared around them as Sarah faced a dilemma that could fracture their fragile life, and the choice was entirely hers. Suddenly, the cafe door swung open and a gust of wind rushed in, bringing with it a chill that froze the moment between them. She turned to see Tom enter, his presence a reminder of her support, of the rekindled light he brought to her life. What is going on? He asked, eyes flicking between them, concern etched across his face. The question hung in the air, heavy with uncertainty. Would this moment hold the potential for healing or unravel it all? The choice was laid bare before her, one that would change everything. She took a deep breath, ready to respond, but the words eluded her. What would she decide in that crucial moment? Tom's entrance shattered the moment like glass, and Sarah felt the tension shift. She glanced back at Jake, whose expression shifted from relief to concern. The warmth of hope she felt flickered. Here was Tom, her anchor, but could he really navigate the storm that brewed in her heart? Just a conversation, Jake said, attempting to sound casual, but the weight of his words was unmistakable. Tom didn't buy it. His brow furrowed as he approached, his protective instincts kicking in. You sure about that? You look like you're about to drown, he shot at Jake, a hint of anger coloring his tone. The exchange made Sarah's stomach twist. This was not just a conversation, it was a reckoning. She glanced at her phone, the screen flashing reminders of the kids' soccer practice later. Did she really want to tear open old wounds in front of Tom, who clearly cared about her and their children? Maybe we should get some fresh air, Sarah suggested, her own voice surprising her. She felt a pulse of adrenaline. The cafe was becoming too small, suffocating almost. Jake nodded, a glimmer of gratitude flashing in his eyes. Yeah, that sounds good. As they stepped outside, the cool air was refreshing, clearing her head, even as her heart raced. The sun cut low in the sky, painting everything in shades of orange and gold, a reminder of the beauty life could offer. She took a deep breath, feeling the weight of choices pressing down. But as they walked away from the cafe, the weight grew heavier. Tom followed closely behind, his presence somewhere between supportive and protective. You don't have to do this, he said quietly, his sincere gaze on her face. I know, Sarah replied, her voice steady. But I need to. I need to confront this, whatever this is. Jake stood on the sidewalk, a few feet ahead, staring at the ground as if it held answers to unasked questions. Then, it was just the three of them standing there, alive in this moment, each burdening their own stories. Why now, Jake? She asked, surprising herself again with the strength in her voice. What's changed since you walked away? He looked up, his face earnest, as if all his defenses had crumbled. I've been in therapy. I've learned a lot about myself, about my mistakes. It took me so long to realize the pain I caused you to the kids. I was so wrapped up in my own issues, I didn't see what I was leaving behind. Her breath caught. Was this the truth or just another layer of the clever way he had always known how to speak to her heart? You think that makes it all better? No, he said, shaking his head. I don't. But I want to be different. I want to fight for this family, for you. For us. She felt tears prick her eyes, a dash of longing bittersweet with her anguish. But can I really believe you? How do I know it won't happen again? Tom stepped forward, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Listen, Sarah, whatever you decide, I'm here for you. You don't have to go back to pain just because he's asking. Yet, amidst the tension, her heart battled her mind. Jake's longing held a flicker of promise, but Tom's support felt like solid ground. I need time, Sarah finally said, the truth spilling out with surprising resolve. Time to figure this out without rushing. She looked at Jake, then back at Tom, the contrast of their lives stark. Jake's face softened, and he nodded, although disappointment flooded his features. That's fair. Just don't shut me out completely. Not yet, she whispered, feeling torn in two. The moment held a quiet intensity, a breath held tight between them. Sarah realized she was standing on the edge of change, the future still unwritten like the sky above, stretching wide with possibilities. But as they turned to walk back towards the cafe, a sound shattered the stillness. A scream rang through the air, echoing with panic just down the street. Mom! It was familiar, like a fragile thread pulling her back. Wait! The kids! Sarah gasped, her heart pounding as she turned toward the direction of the shout. In that instant, the ordinary world faded away, and she was consumed by a runaway force that compelled her to move fast. What lay ahead would challenge everything she believed. What if the past wasn't just returning for her, but for the kids as well? The world spun and blurred around Sarah as she sprinted down the street, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. Panic coursed through her veins, and her only thought was for Mia and Jake. Where are they? The scream was so close, yet so distant. With every footfall, her resolve hardened. Whatever trouble had found her children, she would face it. As she rounded the corner, she saw them standing near the park on the edge of the street, wide eyes filled with confusion and a hint of dread. A couple of teenagers laughed nearby, their cruel amusement palpable. They had been teasing the twins. In a flash, Sarah's protective instinct surged, igniting a fire she hadn't realized was still burning. Mia! Jake! She shouted, her voice slicing through the air. As she reached them, she knelt down, taking their small trembling hands in hers. Jake's gaze darted back to the boys, but Sarah's presence seemed to ground him. I don't like them, Mommy, Jake said, tears glistening in his eyes. They were making fun of us for being different. Her heart ached at his words. Different. In that moment, she was reminded of her own battles, of how past choices had cast a shadow on their vibrant lives. Sarah squared her shoulders, her anger directed toward the teenagers. Hey! Back off! She barked, her fierce maternal instinct overpowering any fear she felt. The teens paused, taken aback by the intensity in her voice. They stared at her, taken aback by the fire swirling in her eyes that mirrored her deep love for her children. You got a problem with my kids? She continued, her voice growing firmer. I suggest you walk away. Right now. They exchanged glances, unsure how to react. Finally, one threw up his hands as they turned and sauntered off, muttering under their breath. Mommy. Mia's voice cracked, and she threw herself into Sarah's arms. I was scared. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes as she gathered both children close, thankful and relieved. I know, sweetheart. I'm here now. You're safe. For the first time that day, she felt a surge of clarity. Everything that had been swirling around her came into focus: the fights with Jake, her conversations with Tom, and her feelings for her children. As they began to walk, hand in hand, a soft voice reached her ears. Sarah. Tom was running toward them, his expression a mix of concern and relief. Just behind him was Jake, now stepping more cautiously, as if realizing the importance of this moment. Are you okay? Tom asked, his gaze darting between Sarah and the twins. Just a little scare, she responded, trying to hide the tremor in her voice. Then, she knelt down to Mia and Jake. Listen up, my brave explorers. No matter what happens, you will always have each other, and you'll always have me. Promise? Jake asked, his small face earnest. Promise, she said, her heart swelling with a love so deep it almost took her breath away. The world beyond felt less threatening, full of possibility. Thanks for scaring them off, Tom added, his admiration clear. Sarah could see the respect in his eyes, the kind of respect she felt for herself in that moment. A gentle smile crept onto her lips, buoyed by a surge of strength. I had to protect my kids. That's what we do, right? Jake nodded, his fear replaced with pride, while Mia squeezed her hand tighter. Jake looked up at Sarah, and for a brief, luminous moment, she saw the boy who still needed a mother, the child who craved stability. Did they need to figure out what would happen between her and Jake? Yes. But they also needed to focus on what lay right in front of them, a family bound by love, and the hope that one day, it could be whole again. Suddenly, she felt a shift in the air, a signal that the wild ride of emotion was far from over, but she was ready. She and the twins weren't just surviving, they were creating a new path, together. Let us go get some hot chocolate, just like old times, she said, her voice full of warmth, nudging them forward. And then I need to make another phone call to fix a few things, starting with your father. As they walked, the sun began to dip below the horizon, painting the sky with golden hues. Sarah linked her arms around her children tighter than ever, imagining the home they could create, even if it meant stepping back into the uncertainty of her past. And behind them, Tom and Jake trailed, joining the procession, a new kind of family forging ahead, a family ready to span the gaps of the past while standing together for the future. Sarah felt hope blooming in her chest as they ventured onward, a testament to the fierce love that could withstand any storm. Together, they would rise from the ashes and create an unbreakable bond, one decision at a time. This was the start of something beautiful, this was the moment everything changed. So what's next for you? Take a leap. Don't let fear limit your journey. Whether it's reaching out to someone who matters or embracing a new chapter in your life, choose to step forward. And remember, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories, leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment your reactions and feelings about this ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share.